Um, my name is Paul Julian, and I'm with the Veterans Memorial Center on Merritt Island, and here with the Veterans History Project, and I'm accompanied here with Joe Davey, also a member of the Veterans History Project team. And today we're at Marine veteran Vinnie Howard, and he was gracious enough to let us into his home, where he's got a fabulous museum. And Vinnie lives in Rockledge, Florida, and he's the commandant of the
Brevard County Detachment of the Marine Corps League.
Thank you, Vinnie. And Joe and I feel very lucky that we were able to do the interview and get the benefit of Vinnie explaining his awesome museum. All right, today is the April 13th. It's a Tuesday, April 13th, 2021. Vinnie, where were you born?
I grew up in the Bronx, New York, about 49 blocks north of Yankee Stadium. And so I'm a diehard Yankees fan. Moved to Minnesota in 1990, and then moved down here to Florida in 2015.
Okay. Were your parents, who were your parents, and what were their occupations?
My dad, John Howard, he passed away in '90, and he was a laborer for New York City. And my mom was a homemaker. Her name is Ruth, and she's still alive, still living in the Bronx.
And did you have any brothers and sisters? And
I have an older brother, John. He's 4 years older. He's retired New York City Police Department, and he lives in Long Island.
Okay. Did John serve?
No, he just did 20 years on NYPD.
Okay. And Vinnie, what was your parents' or brother's feelings about joining the service?
They were not overly thrilled, and there used to be a lot of heated discussions about money and stuff like that. And there was a heated discussion that afternoon. I said, I can't wait to get out of here and go in the Marine Corps. Went in my room, shut the door, looked at my watch, 3, 2, 1, and the door burst open, and it went downhill from there. What is this about going in the Marine Corps? And it just went on for 8 months, and couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, heart constantly thumping. But I was in college at the time at St. John's University, had no clue as to what I wanted to do. And I was so impressed at how my best friend came back, because he was kind of a party hound. He concerts, drinking, and everything. But none of us knew he was going in. And when he came out, we were like, wow. And I wasn't too impressed with college at the time. And it was like high school, just a little more in detail. And I couldn't justify spending my parents' money. And it was a lot less expensive back then. But it just wasn't for me. And so I went into the delayed entry program in October of '81, and then left for boot camp in June of '82.
And you mentioned a friend of yours.
Yep.
He was a party hound. Was he? Did you see something in him that you wanted, or?
Well, when he came out, I've always been focused and disciplined. I started scouting at 11. Actually, we joined together. His mom signed me up because my mom was sick at the time, and we were kind of in competition to attain the rank of Eagle Scout. But with him partying all the time, he kind of lost focus, and I was busy playing hockey in high school, but I still went on, moved forward, and got my Eagle Scout.
Eagle Scout. Okay.
And then eventually, when I got out of the Marine Corps, became the Scoutmaster of my troop.
So you kind of had, it sounds to me, Vinnie, you kind of had a predisposition for service, right?
Yeah.
And we'll get into why the Marines, but when you were going to St. John's, did you have a job?
I was working around the block at a butcher store,
Oh.
just cutting the meat, delivering packages and
Yeah.
stuff. Nothing major because I didn't want to, lose focus on my studies, which didn't quite happen. I had just didn't want to be there,
Okay.
and it was 2 trains and a bus away when I had a college right across the street. So I'm still trying to figure that one out. But I had a good time, a lot of good friends. I still keep in touch with a few of them. But I just wasn't happy, and I've always had a structured and disciplined life. From scouting, I learned how to take care of myself, and then started martial arts at 14. So I have the discipline from that. And then my dad was Army, had a lot of GI Joes, and I had to do something different than what I was doing.
So basically, it seems to me that you were predisposed to have structure in your life as well as serve. Okay. And you described about you went in delayed entry, and then when that time came about, how did you feel to go in?
I was excited. I couldn't wait to leave. We would train. I basically lived at the station, and I'd soak up as much and borrow as many books and learn as much as I can, because knowledge is power. The more prepared you are, I don't want to say easier, but the better you'll be.
Less difficult.
And my recruiters, I requested to go in June, July, and August at Parris Island, South Carolina. And he's, "Are you out of your mind?" I said, well, my logic was the hotter it is, the harder it is, the better you become.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I can deal with that." And it was hot, it was hard, but it made me a better Marine.
And so I have to ask the question, you could have, why the Marines? You could have went the Navy, which is kind of related, somewhat related. You could have went the Army, which is probably more related, and the Air Force. Why?
I don't think I had a high enough score for the Air Force because they're very high tech.
Yeah.
And my dad was in the Army, and I had friends in the Navy as well. As I said, I was so impressed by how my best friend came out, and I said that was for me.
Did you, besides, what did you leave behind? Did you have, besides your family, did you have like a girlfriend? Did you have?
Nope.
No. Okay.
Just I had a lot of girl friends.
Yeah.
I was everybody's big brother.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of came to me to fix all their
With
problems.
relationships, yeah.
So, relationships, I'd rather have girlfriends than a girlfriend.
How did you get to your initial point of entry? And tell me, where did you go?
My recruiting station was on Fordham Road, which was like 2 train stops from where I grew up. And I had a really great recruiter. He became my friend before he became my recruiter. He got to know my ins and outs, my likes, dislikes. And Sergeant Matt Herrera. So if you're out there, give me a call. I lost track of him after I got back and went to school. But he was a straight shooter. He didn't. Recruiters got a bad rep, especially during the Vietnam time.
Yeah.
They just want numbers. He wanted me to succeed, and that's something. He was a really good Marine, and I'm honored to be one of his poolies, what they call them.
And what type of training or schooling did you have? And I guess we'll start with boot camp.
Recruit training is a lot longer for the Marine Corps than it is the other branches. The other branches are generally 6 to 8 weeks, mostly 8 weeks. Marine Corps is 13. And we are the tip of the spear, as they say. Physical fitness is obvious. and all the different combat training, combat tactics, squad tactics, weaponry. They didn't do too much martial arts back then. There was a lot of, close combat with the rifle. But prior to going in, I was already a red belt, so I was pretty well prepared for that. I had a big jump on the game because all the books that friends had loaned me, I knew the 11 general orders, the 6 code of conduct, both Navy and Marine Corps rank structure, all 3 verses of the Marine Corps hymn. I already was very good at first aid from my scouting training. A little bit about marching. I practiced the rifle movements for the close combat. And I had self-discipline from the martial arts. And so I had a very big jump on a game where people were panicking trying to learn, the basic stuff. I'm reading into the more advanced stuff. And it really helped because even then I was a go-to guy because some people had a hard time, learning things. Mm-hmm. And I've been blessed with a way to be able to explain things from my martial arts background and my scouting background to make it easier to understand as well as apply.
So that not just your personality, but also the fact that you did work with this information and so you kind of got a heads up.
Yeah. And they do that now with the kids today. And I offer my services to the recruiters to talk to the kids, talk to the parents, because not all the parents, want their kids, obviously, to go in, especially in these times. But the alternatives are working at Dairy Queen, credit card debt, substance abuse, unwanted pregnancies, gang running, and in the military, it doesn't matter what branch, you're a family. Marines are a little closer than most. I mean, even especially as veterans, and we have 245 years of history together. I've got people that I've never met before. Doesn't matter. I have 245 years of history with that person. And the fun part is, somebody they might know that same person. I met a kid over here at the Rockledge Dollar Store. I had on a Marine shirt, and he goes, "Hey, Semper Fi," and we started talking. And it turns out he was a communications guy like myself, and he was out in California. I said, "Well, did you know Master Gunnery Sergeant Witherspoon?" He goes, "Yeah, I knew Spoon." I said, "We were corporals in 1984. He's like, "Oh my God," he couldn't believe it. And I even helped a captain in Minnesota get a job who was a comm officer. At Miramar, I said, "Did you know Master Gunnery Sergeant Witherspoon?" He was my comm chief. We were corporals together in 1984.
Small world.
And it's a trip because I met a guy at NASA who, he's a contractor there. I lived at Bedford Park Boulevard. The next stop south was Kingsbridge Road, where he lived. The next stop was Fordham Road, where we both were recruited 2 years apart.
Oh, wow.
So it's a very small corps.
So the boot camp you went to was at Parris Island?
Parris Island, South Carolina. What some people call hell, we call home.
Okay.
It's the most miserable place on earth.
Really? How was it? Was it as?
Yeah. Anything you could possibly have read, heard, saw, amplify it 10 times.
Yeah. Remember I asked you about the sand, running on the sand.
God, you're running the sand. You're running the mud. You're doing stuff in the rain, in the heat. And it's all controlled, If it's too hot, they train you inside. When I got off the bus, prior to getting down there, I was just given 8 service record books for eight of the New Yorkers going down there. And drill instructors hate New Yorkers. They absolutely hate us. And I was sitting right behind the driver, so I knew I would be the first one off that bus because you've seen all the stories. "You got 10 seconds to get off my bus now." And there's 80 of us on the bus. And so, you run off, but I'm sitting behind the driver. I knew I was the first one off. And so I got everybody's orders, and I'm standing at attention. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. Sand flea lands right here, and you're not allowed to kill them. They call it the national bird of Parris Island. And back in kind of, the Vietnam days and probably before, they would play little head games with you.
Mm-hmm.
If you killed one, if you slapped it, oh God, they'd have a fit because artillery's hearing that, and here come the bombs. You just killed your whole platoon. There's some truth to it. But then to mess with you, they would make you find it wherever it dropped, and then they'd find out what sex it is, male or female. Then you had to dig a 6x6 grave to bury the damn thing. And those, it's probably tall tales, but that's what what happens at Parris Island. What they say, what happens at Parris Island stays at Parris Island. And it's on a swamp in South Carolina. There's gators, there's rattlesnakes, sharks, and if you decide to go UA or AWOL is a more term. UA is unauthorized absence. To get out in town, you're swimming through all that stuff. God knows what you're going to encounter. But if you do make it out in town, there were 2 kids from down there that snuck off in town, and they went to a diner to get a piece of pie. Well, the civilians are paid to turn you in. So these 2 guys got busted, and we witnessed their non-judicial punishment or office hours. And the captain was ruthless, and you don't mess around with the rules of the military. It's called the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and these guys got busted big time, and they did some break time. So,
Did they stay in?
I have no idea.
Yeah. They were set back. Yeah, obviously.
They probably didn't leave the island for a while. And, you're there for 3 months, and it's miserable. It's absolutely miserable. And the one thing about Marines is there's a big sign when you get to the rifle range. We train the world's best marksmen, and you spend 2 weeks at the rifle range out of your 13 weeks. First week you're what they call snapping in, sitting in the positions. There's 4 positions of sitting, standing, kneeling, and a prone position, and they're very uncomfortable. And you spend a week just sighting, and we had just the iron sights. We didn't have the scopes and stuff like they do these days. And you got the sling on tight. Some people develop sling palsy, and they lose the use of their arm, and they would get medically discharged. But you do what the drill instructors tell you, or the primary marksmanship instructors tell you, and you'll be fine. And the second week you're pre-qualing, just getting used to the firing of the weapon, and then the last couple of days is qualifying. And with the Marine Corps, the other branches go from the 200-yard line to the 300-yard line. We go all the way back to the 500-yard line, and we are the only branch of service that does that. And if you do not qualify, you go back 2 weeks in training. You don't want that. That's a bad thing. And I scored enough to qualify, and so I graduated on time, thank God.
Vinnie, you mentioned about doing the physical fitness and karate and studying like the 10 general orders. Is it 10? 11 general orders. And but when you got to the rifle range, were you prepared for that? Did you do anything?
I've shot before. My dad used to hunt up in the Catskills, and but you're firing a weapon was kind of questionable. The M16, the M16,
accuracy.
Was originally used in Vietnam, but we have the A1 version. So there was a couple adaptations since the original one, and now they're up to the M16A4, which is a lot smaller, and all these other attachments and stuff.
Versions.
Scope, and must be nice.
So refinements, right?
But they had a little bit of a kick to it. But if you did what the instructors told you to do, you would do well. And you had the different target shapes. One was like half a silhouette from like the chest up. Then you had a circle, and then like a whole body, and that's the one we used from 500 yards. And when I qualified in recruit training, from 500 yards, I hit 9 out of 10 bullseyes. So,
if you would have hit 10, you would have been.
just to add 5 more points to my score.
Yeah. So were you expert marksman then?
No, in recruit training, I only shot marksman.
Okay.
And by the time I finished, I shot sharpshooter, but I was 1 shot off from shooting expert.
Okay.
So I was like, come on, somebody throw me around so I can get it, but they can't. You got to follow strict rules.
So that was boot camp, and then did you? What other? I talked to you before. What did you go? What other training did you have before?
From boot camp, I went home for a few days and then went out to 29 Palms, California for communications school. I was a communications center operator. What that does, if you remember the ticker tape like they would use at the stock exchange, that's the type of equipment we had. For comm center, we used teletypes that were dated back to Korea. And when I finished my duty station at school, it was a 3-month school, then they sent me overseas to Okinawa. They put me in a reconnaissance unit. Like, what am I going to do here? Carry a teletype? And the sergeant major's like, well, the last comm center guy never went to do any of the reconnaissance training, and you're it. I was like, okay. So I started learning field radio and wire.
OJT.
All OJT. And the operators that were in our platoon were really, really good. And when I was there from New Year's Eve of '82 to the 20 December of '83, we had 3 typhoons. And our guys were, doing 24-hour watches. And I volunteered to, learn the procedures because these guys were really getting dog tired. So they trained me really well, and then I got deployed to the Philippines as an operator, radio operator, and then deployed to Guam as a radio operator. So when I finished my tour overseas, I went down to Camp from here up to Camp Lejeune in a communications battalion. I really didn't have much experience in my job, so it was a little frustrating. But anytime a deployment came up for a radio operator, I was the first one picked because I didn't have to go through and learn all the mumbo jumbo of comm school that you don't use, but I knew all the procedures. Mm-hmm. And so it was pretty nice being in demand like that. Mm-hmm. So, so I have communication center, reconnaissance, field radio, and wire under my belt as a newly promoted corporal.
What's the wire?
Wireman. So you're running, thin cable, attaching it to a TA312 phone, field phone, and just running the cable. You kind of bury it.
Does it look like a landline?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those. I didn't get to climb any poles or nothing, but just running landline, and so I had enough knowledge of the different MOSs to be effective in wherever the Marine Corps put me.
Vinnie did. So any other?
Yeah. After that, they sent me. They had a quota for chemical warfare school, decontamination school, which was right a few miles away from Camp Lejeune, at Camp Geiger, and I finished first in my class amongst staff non-commissioned officers for chemical warfare decontamination. So we'd set up different tents, set up the shower system, run the chemicals to clean your body off. My philosophy, once again, the hotter it is, the harder it is, the better you become. If it's something that's going to save you in combat, you learn it really, really well. And, I learned, the basic NBC, nuclear, biological, chemical warfare defense really well in recruit training, and then trained a little bit overseas with it, wearing what they call MOP 4, mission-oriented protective posture. It's a charcoal-lined suit with the mask. Actually, one of my G.I. Joes over there has it. And special rubber boots and special rubber gloves, and you're operating in a chemically contaminated environment.
Is that MSPF Marine? Is that it?
It says MOP Marine.
Okay. All right.
It should be the one right there in the middle, underneath the drill instructor.
You grabbed that, Joe?
Nah, you won't be able to pull it out.
Okay. All right.
And
which one is it?
The bottom one.
Over to
underneath the drill instructor. Right there.
Okay. That's a mop.
Yeah, it's a very miserable suit to wear. It's very hot. The Department of Defense had come down to our unit, 8th Communications Battalion, and wanted to do a chemical degradation trial. So there was about 8 of us on the team, and it was about 85 to 90 degrees, and we were in a sand lot and in Mop 4, so we had our utilities on underneath the full charcoal lined suit. When you wear just the gas mask, you have 9 seconds to don and clear. With the hood, you have 15. Otherwise, you're dead. Not a pretty picture, but you learn to move fast.
And then you mentioned that you had to set up a camp. Was that also time sensitive?
Yeah. Well, we had no guidance as to what to do, and they wanted us to set up a command post tent, put cami netting over it, get the generator to give it everything power, have teletype gear operational, have radio gear out of the Jeep operational, and then have men as sentries and operators for the equipment.
How long did they give you to do this?
Like I said, we did what we had to do. The first time took us 8 hours to do it once, and we still had on combat gear too, on top of all the equipment, the chemical warfare equipment. And we finally went to break. We're ripping the stuff off. We're just soaking wet, dehydrated. So on day 2 of it, I just stepped up amongst. I was a senior corporal of the group. Okay, generator guy, because nobody else knows his job, you do your generator. Radio Jeep guy, you do your Jeep. I got the teletype, that was my job. The rest of you set up the tent, and the netting this is what the netting looks like. And so you're trying to feed that over tent stakes and tent pegs, and it's all getting caught up, and it takes a lot of time.
And you're trying to hurry.
So we're trying to hurry. So spread the netting out, grab a pole in each corner, pick it up over the tent, and set it down like you're holding an umbrella. And so we set up and tore down 4 times in 5 hours and 20 minutes. And
my gosh,
they're like, what was the change? Then the sarcasm comes out. Have you ever worn this stuff? No. Well, now you know why. You move just like in recruit training. You're fast and you're loud. You never be last. And you move with a sense of urgency, because in a chemically contaminated environment, you have no choice. If you don't have your mask on at the time, you're dead. It's that simple. And so we got the job done. And some of the strategies, because the gloves are kind of big, and sit there trying to type accurate messages to go out, you're making mistakes. So we took the glove, since I was the operator, took the glove, pinched it, flapped it over electrical tape. So now it's to the shape of my finger, so now the message traffic is accurate. And they're like, how are you doing this?
Improvise.
Have you used the equipment? It's a big phrase that the Marine Corps uses, improvise, adapt, and overcome. That's what we did. And it really wasn't prevalent back then, until the movie Heartbreak Ridge. Then that's what we did. We improvised, we adapted, and overcame.
All right, Vinnie, any other schools?
I went to battalion NCO school, just to fill a quota. And you learn basic leadership, drill, which I was all good at all those things. So from there they sent me to SATCOM school, Satellite Communications, and I was in the 2nd class of operators, and that was out in Coronado, California. It was only a few days long, where the next group of Marines that went out there, it was like 2 weeks. So we kind of got the crash course. And I had a hard time figuring it out, because it was all talk. But when you start applying it, okay, so this goes here, okay, that's easy. The grounding state goes in, okay, so you set everything up. So it was real easy. People learn differently. I learned by doing. And so once we got it set up, then
you had an accelerated.
Yeah.
You had to do an accelerated.
And then I got sent on temporary assigned duty, TAD, to another unit at Camp Lejeune called 2nd Radio Battalion. And in 1985 and 86, we were deployed to Germany on combined joint national operation.
NATO.
There was Germans there, there was the British there,
NATO,
yeah,
yeah.
Danish were there. Yeah. And so we provided satellite communications. And the group we were supporting, 2nd Radio Battalion, I had a top secret clearance. These guys had higher clearance. So, you know, it was very, you know, we had to be spot on.
Sensitive stuff.
Yeah.
Now, looking back from all your training, what was the most vivid memory of your training, of your time training or in school? The most vivid memory? Anything that stands out?
The reconnaissance training, because you're going behind the lines, and you know what we call poop and snoop. You know, you're looking, gathering intel. Some of the training got a little hairy at times. Couple of near-death experiences, which, you know, wakes you up real quick. I was on what they call a spy rig, special patrol insertion and extraction, where you're kind of hanging from a helicopter on a piece of rope, and the CH-46 pulls you up, so it's like you're like a puppet.
That's not a Chinook, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we used to call it a sea night. And so there's two, and then one person on the bottom to take off running to take up the slack, so we could all be lower down. Well, I'm on the top with the Navy corpsman, and all of a sudden I hear click. My harness opened. I was like, So I grab him in a headlock. He's like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, my harness opened. I'm going to break your fall. You're going to fix me, okay?" "Oh, yeah, sure." You know, you learn to
yeah, you have to improvise.
You make fun of the situation, so you don't panic. And then
so that was
so we're 200 feet in the air doing 60 miles an hour over the Pacific, so it's a little hairy. And then on a land navigation patrol in the jungles of the Philippines, we had a Filipino guide from the Filipino Army, great guy. His name was Roger, and he was the only one of us to have rounds. And the Philippines is kind of a mixed country with...
There's a lot of terrorists.
Yeah. And, you know, I didn't know this guy from Shinola. And I stood in the back with him, K-bar drawn. I didn't have any rounds. And, you know, we're in the middle of nowhere in the jungles of the Philippines. Miserably hot. And I'm going home. I don't know about you. And
Any reason why you didn't have this?
No. That's just how it was. They didn't give you rounds. And it was the same thing what happened with the Beirut embassy bombing. The Marines there did not have any rounds. We were there as peacekeepers. I was on Okinawa when that happened, and prior to that, I never felt so helpless until 9/11 happened. And they actually tried to call me back after that happened, but due to family situations, I couldn't go back.
So. What was the best part of your training? Would you say, of all your training?
Just the camaraderie, you know, Marines looking after one another. If you're struggling with something, somebody's there to back you up. And that's how it is throughout your entire time in the Corps. You've got brothers and sisters 24/7, 365. You know, they're always got your back. And some of those friendships I still have. And it's, you know, I'm closer with a lot of my Marine friends than I am even family, because, you know, we've got that connection. Family, you know, sometimes you don't get to see them once or twice a year, but these guys are you're living with them, and you're training with them. You're, you know, every aspect of military life with them, and you become.
Vinnie, what if you have somebody, and I know you probably come across them in your years, that don't want to do that? They usually don't last.
Don't want to do.
Don't want to be a team member. Do they usually?
Well, they have a harder time. You know, the days of, you know, blanket parties and you know, that they don't do that anymore. Or so, you know, it's said. but they have what they call EMI, extra military instruction. You know, get with the program, because your life depends on it, and you know, the person next to you's life depends on it, and the person next to you's life depends on it, and they depend on you, and you depend on them. So, and you have, you talk civil to people. You know, you can go the other way, the other route, and be a jerk about it, but you attract more bees with honey than you do vinegar.
Right.
And there's different types of leadership. There's authoritative, you will do this, or there's persuasive. Hey, we need somebody to do this. If you do a combination of the both, it makes you a better Marine, a better person, and you people respect you. There's two missions of a Marine NCO: accomplishment of your mission and the welfare of the men. And my missions were always accomplished, and my guys were always taken care of. And so I learned really well in the time I was there, and I carry that over to what I do every day. So.
What was the worst part of all your training?
The pain afterwards, because you're pushed.
Really?
And pushed some more, and it sometimes takes a couple of days to recover, but you don't have a couple of days to recover. You take some ibuprofen, you rehydrate, and you go back at it again.
Yeah.
And it wears you out. And there were times I was so dehydrated that you're kind of losing focus on stuff. You start shaking and getting angrier quicker. But your brother and sister Marines, they've got your back. Here, come on, drink some water, put some salt tablets in there, get rehydrated. And just refocus. You got this, and we work together for the accomplishment of the mission.
So that's very important to you, I see. Now let's go into your. I know we've touched on them, but your first assignment after your training, after your basic training. First assignment after your basic training.
After comm school, I was sent to 3rd Reconnaissance Battalion. I was a comm center guy, but then, like I said, I got cross-trained in other jobs. And it was peacetime, so there really wasn't much going on. All we did was train some more. PT, some more. And but I was in phenomenal shape. And, we were always ready at a moment's notice.
Show us your picture.
Oh, yeah. So this is my kind of Marine scrapbook that was given to me. And so that was me in 1982.
You look very serious.
Oh yeah, you never smiled. Things were thrown at you if you smiled. You don't smile. And I went down to Paris Island Way in 167, and I came out 145. And so it was, 7 days a week for 3 months, 16 hours a day. And this is our platoon picture. This is my senior drill instructor, Staff Sergeant Honeycutt, Sergeant Dendy, who actually retired as Sergeant Major, and Staff Sergeant Gatling. And our platoon mates. Actually, I'm in touch with a few of them through a Marine website called Together We Served. That was our platoon number, 2043.
And so did you follow the careers of your drill sergeants?
I tracked one of them down on the website, and he remembered me. And actually, he was supposed to come visit me in Minnesota. He was a big Prince fan, and I worked right across the street from Prince's recording studio. And his wife was a big Mall of America fan, and I lived 10 minutes from the Mall of America, but we never connected. But there's a lot of people on Facebook, and like I said, a couple of the guys I served with are on there, and I just got word that my old platoon sergeant from Recon just suffered from a stroke. But he's home now, recuperating, so get well soon, Sergeant or Master Guns Hayes now. He stayed in for 30, 3 tours of Iraq, over 1,000 jumps, and he just, so God bless him.
So they did probably, so many of the instructors made an impression on you, huh?
Oh yeah, my philosophy, especially growing up in the martial arts, you learn from the littlest white belt to the oldest adult, and you know, I've got 43 years of my life doing it, and I'm able to adapt to any situation, any person. You know, because you want to train people the way you were trained, and not to make the mistakes you made.
Mm-hmm.
And so you find other ways of improvising, adapting, and overcoming
Mm-hmm.
to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that continues with me, you know, even as a civilian.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of fun, you know, because, you know, you see something, you size it up right away, and then you attack it.
Mm-hmm.
And you just get out of the way.
Yeah.
You either go through it, around it, or over it.
Yeah.
I tend to go through it a lot. Just, you know, I got a job to do. Get out of the way.
You qualified then in radios, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you qualified in as a Marine, you had to qualify in rifles.
Yeah. You have to qualify it with the rifle range, or else you don't graduate recruit training.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to rifle range once a year. And
Really, you have to requalify.
Yeah, every year.
As far as the okay, did you receive any promotions?
I had contract PFC because I had a 2-year associate's degree. It was either that or I would have gotten promoted because of my Eagle Scout.
Yeah.
Any branch of service, if a potential member achieves the rank of Eagle Scout, they are automatically given their first strike.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've shown the ability to be a leader
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, achieve what other people haven't done.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got my Eagle Scout in 1980, only 1% got it.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's up to about 7%.
Yeah.
So
so you got promoted to a sergeant?
no. So after PFC, I was on Okinawa, and it was 9 months, what they call time and grade, to get promoted to Lance Corporal. So I got time and grade Lance Corporal, and then my platoon leaders noticed, you know, how hard I pushed myself in everything I did, and I was meritoriously promoted to corporal.
Mm-hmm.
And a buddy of mine, he got promoted also, and the funny thing about him, and he's a friend on Facebook, and he was a phenomenal radio operator.
Mm-hmm.
He taught me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And when I checked into the platoon, another Marine from Brooklyn introduced me to him. He said, he goes, "Hey, you got a homeboy from the Bronx." And he lived like 4 blocks away, and he had a picture of this girl on his desk. I said, "You know this girl?" He said, "Yeah, that's my girlfriend." I said, "I went to grade school with her." And so, like I said, it's a small, small world. And he was at a rival high school. He went to Spelman. I went to Mount St. Michael.
Mm-hmm.
And, we used to play them in football and hockey and basketball. And like I said, he's doing quite well for himself. I'm not sure what state, I can't remember what state he lives in, but
Mm-hmm.
he's a friend on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And
what was the hardest part of military lifestyle for you to adapt to?
people not pulling their weight. And that's you go with that, with either any branch of service or any job.
Yeah.
You're expected to pull your weight, and if you don't, you're making it harder for everybody else around you, and you don't want to be a jerk about things. So you talk them through it, show them, hey, look, we really need you to step up your game, and let's get this job done so we can move on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. And those that didn't, you didn't want to write them up because they would, that would have that mark on their record, or potentially lose rank, or other non-judicial punishment. And you don't want to be known as a narc or a rat.
Yeah.
And so you help people.
Mm-hmm.
We had a guy that the lieutenant told, and he was one of my best friends. The lieutenant told him, "Poop rolls downhill."
Mm-hmm.
Not on my watch.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent the time with him, got his uniform and his equipment so squared away that the lieutenant couldn't find anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, we became, really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And we still keep in touch to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And he lives out in New Jersey.
if I could just digress a second. So your first assignment was
with recon.
recon,
And then my next one was with 8th Communications Battalion at Camp Lejeune.
Camp Lejeune. And how were you there a long
I
time?
was there 2.5 years. That's where I was discharged from.
Okay.
When I was there, I was on ship on the USS Iwo Jima. We were off the coast of Villegas Garcia. Spooky part about that was before we went.
David Garcia.
Villegas Garcia, off the coast of Puerto Rico.
Oh, okay.
And they were expecting trouble when they hit the beach because the ships out there were causing issues with the fishing industry,
Right.
which is a primary source of income out there. And so they had what they called gauchos, or rebels, on the beach waiting.
Mm-hmm.
But being a comm guy, I was still on ship, but they had us make out wills prior to. So there's a little bit of a wake-up call there. And then my 2 trips to Germany in '85 and '86.
And then those trips, Vinnie, were TDY,
Yeah, well, we call them TAD.
TAD, and then how long were each of them again?
About a month.
About a month. Did you get a feel for how Germany was like in that month?
Oh, we were in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
We were way up north by the East German border, a small town called Erlesine.
Mm-hmm. This is before the wall came down, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we were there in '86, we were watching on the TV when the space shuttle blew up, and we're all sitting there like, "Whoa!"
It was a challenge, right?
Yeah, and it
bummer.
it was a bummer.
Yeah.
But
And you hadn't even thought about the Space Coast movement, huh? Yeah.
and I just lived one day at a time,
Mm-hmm.
and it was sad, but there was nothing anybody could do, and we just went on with our mission, and working with the other nations and establishing.
So you actually were working with the NATO people, huh? With all different bunch of countries, huh?
So it was a lot of fun. We made some friendships, took a lot of pictures with each other.
Yeah.
Visited the border side there, and
Were you with the other nations' army or the Marines?
Army.
Army. Okay.
Not many other nations have Marines.
Yeah.
There's a number of them, but these were the German Army,
Mm-hmm.
and you really felt bad for the soldiers there. I mean, they were a great bunch of guys, and but the civilian population related them to the Nazis.
Really?
And we'd be out in the club having a few beers, and these guys would be breaking down in tears.
Really?
We're not Nazis. We're not Nazis. And they took us for different tours of some of the different historical land sites. And we went to this one church, and we went down to like the mausoleum, and they had a father and son that both served, and they had crossed flags over their coffins. One was a grayish color and one was a dark blue, and those colors went on to be later on the colors of the Gestapo.
Really?
And the Germans, they believed in reincarnation right away, so they had a little hole in the casket with a string attached to a bell. And we're all sitting there, hey, not for nothing, but if that bell rings, get the hell out of the way. So, but we had brothers and sisters, with those nations there, and I don't keep in touch with any of it, but I still have the pictures and the memories, and you live off the memories,
Is there anything else that on your book that you'd like to show as far as? We got a few more questions. We're not coming to the end.
Yeah, the rest are just certificates from. This is the certificate of acceptance once you enlist, and then my first promotion to Lance Corporal, and then my meritorious promotion to Corporal, my first comm school certificate, my chemical warfare certificate, my NCO school certificate, my good conduct medal, my satellite communications, and then my honorable discharge, and I got a number of letters of appreciation from the Marine Corps as well as the Department of Army, of the Army for that chemical warfare deal we did. And they weren't issuing the National Defense Ribbon the way they do now. They stopped it in the mid-'70s, so I never earned that. The only one I have is my Good Conduct Medal and then my Sea Service Deployment Ribbon for being overseas.
So,
I can move that if you want.
is there anything in the museum here that you'd like to, that, you know, what makes you feel what makes you feel the best about being a Marine? Is there any memorabilia or anything like that?
Not one thing.
Not one thing. It's everything.
The Marine Corps is the smallest branch of service, but we have the biggest history. I've got everything. I have it all broken down, pretty organized. Going from here, we have books on World War I. Marines got the name Devil Dog from the Battle of Belleau Wood. The Germans called us Teufelshunden, which means dogs of the devil, because of the fierce fighting spirit. So that was kind of set the pace for the Marine Corps after that. Various books on marine aviation, and just miscellaneous patches and stuff. Down here is the Marine Raiders. The Raiders were the original special forces of the Marine Corps. Gotta have a Raider G.I. Joe. Everybody should have one. And one of the charter members of my detachment in Minnesota was a Raider. And these are all the Raider newsletters, and then stuff about the Philippines. There was a big phrase, with the help of God, and a few good Marines brought MacArthur back to the Philippines. There's a lot of bad blood about that, because he didn't plan on coming back. But, you know, he did. Miscellaneous World War II, miscellaneous. Here's the kind of the pride and joy of the Marine Corps is the Iwo Jima flag raising. We recently celebrated the 75th anniversary in February 23rd of 2020. And a charter member from my detachment in Minnesota was the last survivor of the first flag raising on Iwo Jima. Not many people know about that. The middle section here pertains to Korea and the Battle of the Chosin Reservoir, which I have. I attended one of their reunions, and the next pile of stuff there is from Vietnam. I have a connection to Vietnam. I have a cousin that was there. After I got my Eagle Scout in 1980, and then I graduated high school, then I received a community award it's called the Spirit of Youth Award, from a guy whose son was a Marine PFC and killed in Da Nang at 22 years of age. His name is up on the wall, and never saw a picture of him. I didn't go to the wall till the late 90s. Found his name, still didn't know what he looked like. And then I finally saw a picture of him just 2 years ago. And he was from the neighborhood, and so I have that connection now, because I have somebody on the wall. More miscellaneous. There's a whole section of miscellaneous underneath the table. I found this in an antique store in Grant. It's one of the Blue Angels, signed by all the pilots. This is a painting by Mr. Ron Stark, depicting the first flag raising on Iwo Jima. And this was the gentleman from my detachment, Chuck Lindbergh.
What's the difference between the first and the second?
The first flag raising happened at 10:20 in the morning of 23 February. And the flag that they flown was a lot smaller, and they couldn't see it from the ship, you know, at the beach. So some admiral wanted a bigger flag. Lieutenant, go take care of it. So the lieutenant ran down a hill, got a bigger flag, and as he was coming up the flag, Joe Rosenthal happened to be there, civilian photographer. Okay guys, ready? 1, 2, 3, up. So it was kind of a stage deal where this picture here
is natural.
They got on top of Suribachi and raised the deal. And you know, a lot of people don't know that. And I was fortunate enough to meet Vi Lindbergh, who is the widow of Chuck. Chuck died in 2007, the year I joined the league.
Mm-hmm.
And she took me into Chuck's room like this. And you're sitting there. I actually got to hold the actual pictures of the first flag raising by Sergeant Lou Lowry. So there was a few goosebumps, you know, drool bucket.
Wow.
And, you know, anything, you know, Marines related to our history
Mm-hmm.
is mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see how much stuff there is. I mean, I've got stuff that people had never even heard of.
Mm-hmm.
And some was given to me, some I found, some I bought. And it just goes with that 245 years of history. And you really, really get into it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I haven't read a lot of these yet, but, you know, I could pull a chair in here like we're sitting now and just read.
So what was the 250th anniversary will be 2000?
Well, it's going to be
20.
246 and 21, so 4 years after that. So it's, and I'm sure it'll be a huge event.
Mm-hmm.
The Marine Corps birthday, a lot of the wives of other branches don't like it because the Marine wives get to dress up in fancy gowns and then they're nudging their husbands in the other branches. Well, why don't you guys do that? Crickets. And so it Marines celebrate. Like I said, we're the smallest branch, but our battle history goes on forever. And
You exemplify that saying, once a Marine, always a Marine, if I might say.
mm-hmm.
And so the easiest part of the military life for you was just because you're a disciplined, structured type of person, and that's what it takes.
Yeah.
Wartime service, you didn't really have any direct...
No, I was on Okinawa when they bombed the Brevard embassy, and that was very hard because we were in the Pacific at the time, and there was nothing we can do with the unit I was with, and I never felt so helpless.
Mm.
You know, it was very somber in the barracks, and working at the comm center, you know, I had a major come up asking for, you know, to see the list of the KIAs. There was 241 total people died, and there was a few Navy and a few Army personnel that were killed as well in that 241. So I said, may I see your ID card, sir? You know, checking. Sorry, sir, your name's not on here. I can't give you the information.
Mm-hmm.
He goes nuts on me. He's
Yeah.
bang, I'm up, and then, you know, bleep, bleep.
Yeah.
And I said, so you can be God. If your name's not on this list, I cannot give you anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, here's my ID card. Write me up if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I'm sorry, Lance Corporal. You know,
Yeah.
I had
And he
friends
tried
over
to-
there.
Tried the
And-
sweet approach.
yeah. No, he apologized because he
Yeah.
knew he was wrong.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's not intentional compromise of classified material in that time frame was a death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was that whole Walker incident, that
Yeah.
father and son
The
incident.
Navy thing.
And anything after that was the death penalty.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know you, you're not getting anything.
That's right. That's right.
And it, you know, even my lieutenant, you know, I'm sitting in my cubicle kind of reflecting and praying, and, you know, he asked, you know, for some, sir, you know better.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Mhm.
And so he understood. And like I said, we were just nothing we can do.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, October 23rd, this particular year hit me really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it has in the past, but not like this.
Yeah.
You know, I went and had my own private little ceremony. I had a friend videotape it down at the beach by Patrick Air Force Base. And I don't drink, and I told him I'll be down there in a little while. I gotta go buy a beer. I hung up. He calls me back. What are you doing buying a beer? You don't drink. But you know, I toasted my brothers that got killed. He goes, you gotta take a sip. No, I don't. I just sniffed it, poured it, and prayed. And you know, each thing in Marine Corps history, you know, if you have some type of connection to it, makes it closer to, you know, what happened. And as I said, I've been blessed with this room and the people I've met. I've met Medal of Honor recipients. Who else?
It's that
You know, I
honor-
have friends that are pilots.
Mhm.
You know, that were
Just a band of
Yeah,
brothers.
yeah. Well, Band of Brothers is kind of the Army thing from, but you know, we're just Marines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they used to call women Marines WMs or other derogatory names, which makes it sick to my stomach. But General Amos, when he was coming on the Marine Corps, said, "You are all Marines. Don't matter if you're male, female, black, white. You know, you're light green, you're dark green. You are Marines. Period." And that's what's unique about us.
Stays with you.
Yeah, and like I said, some of my best friends are military, and it brother Marine, sister Marine, your family. You got each other's back. You got a problem, you call, and it don't matter what time of night. I don't sleep anyway, and I'm talking to friends on the phone, or emailing, or texting,
And so you're not the only one that has this
no,
love and appreciation.
we're all the same.
Yeah.
You complain about it to no end while you're in, but when you get out, it's a different ball of wax. Some of the veterans today that get out from Iraq and Afghanistan, they don't always join, different veterans groups or Marine veteran groups. Some of them do. But just like anything, it's like learning from a grandparent or a great-grandparent or an uncle. You're honoring people that preceded you and set the path for you to have your career the way you do. It just is my time in service is helping prepare the kids of tomorrow. And it's a big responsibility.
Do you work with Brian Schneider?
Yep, Brian and I used to work at U-Haul together, and then I got him involved in the Marine Corps League, and got him involved with the Space Coast Young Marines. And he's the unit commander, and he was at the Vietnam Wall last night with about 18 of his kids, and they laid a wreath, and then they made the Battlefield Cross piece by piece.
Oh, nice.
And Brian's a dear friend, and he only lives about 10 minutes away, and we're constantly, working together for the betterment of the kids.
So you're trying to pass it down, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll do a lot of stuff behind the scenes, Marine history. I even taught a martial arts class there for them.
Oh, really?
And I keep it at their level. I'm not going to teach them, how to.
Nothing complex.
Yeah, not what we would normally do to somebody.
Yeah.
Not that we would ever do that. But anti-bullying things.
Yeah.
Awareness of your surroundings.
Yeah.
Sitting on a school bus. You have your backpack behind you. No, you put your backpack in front of you. Somebody approaches or takes a swing at you. Put the backpack up. Put the backpack up. Put the backpack up. Throw it in their face. Get a shot and get out of there. And simple things. You don't need to learn 9,000 movements to be able to
defend yourself.
Yeah. And that's the hard time.
And keep your self-esteem at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, I was bullied by my brother's friends, and the one that he still runs his mouth to me. It's like, I'm not the same nice little shy kid that I was back then. And even as a teenager, when I got proficient, we straightened things out real quick.
All right, Vinnie. Then let's go to the end of the service. Do you recall the day your service ended?
6 May 1986. Actually, my service never ended. It's still going on. My original date of discharge was the 6th of June of 1986, so 666. I saw that movie, The Omen, too many times, and I said, let's not take the chance. Since there weren't any promotions in that field and it was peacetime, I decided to take my discharge and go home.
And where did it end?
I went back to the Bronx, from Camp Lejeune back to the Bronx, and then met a Minnesota gal. Moved to Minnesota in '90.
This is when you still had reserve service to do?
I finished my reserve time. It was inactive reserve in '88. and then so I'm officially, totally, done. And then I got a phone call when the first Gulf War broke out. Because of my background in satellite communications, they had asked me if I was interested in coming back. Well, I just got married the first time. My brother was a New York cop, and a month after I got married, my dad died. So,
Wasn't a good time.
yeah, it was a bad time, and I couldn't do that to my mother. She was worried sick with my brother being on the job, because his precinct, statistic-wise, was the worst in America.
Really?
And actually, I met a police officer at the Vietnam Veterans thing that knew my brother and all the other guys that my brother served with on the job. So,
Small world.
Yeah, I met a guy that lived around the corner from me. He was a Navy vet, a Vietnam vet.
So you didn't actually drill then?
No.
No. Okay. And you returned home, and then so you talked about you were done in '88. By '88, did you meet your future wife? Did you meet her?
Yeah, I met her in I think it was '89. She was a nanny out on Long Island, and we met in karate school. She was a second-degree black belt. I was a red belt. And the first time we sparred, we were closer than this. She spun and kicked me in the head, so I got even with her and married her. Fixed her wagon. And but we parted. We got divorced a few years later after we moved to Minnesota. We parted better as friends, and then about 5-6 years later, I met my current wife, teaching martial arts to people with disabilities
in Minnesota.
In Minnesota. Yeah. Got married there in 2002. Had my son in 2003. And then stayed till 2015 and moved down here.
Now, so you married your second wife. You met her. She was martial arts.
She was a personal attendant for one of my students. Our school, it was at a place called Courage Center, and they dealt with people with a variety of disabilities.
Like autism and
autism, spina bifida, cerebral palsy. I had people in wheelchairs, people missing limbs. And we taught the basic martial art curriculum, but we adapted it to what they can do. I don't care what you can't do. I mean, there's things I can't do, or I can't do anymore. But, you want martial arts is designed to, it's a journey inside yourself to bring out the best you.
So it's just not knowing how to fight.
Yeah. There's a lot of philosophy involved. Sometimes the philosophy takes over and you're not really learning how to protect yourself. That's where I kind of draw the line on certain things. And you need to be able to protect yourself. You need to be aware of your surroundings and kind of how to read things. Growing up in the Bronx, you become very street savvy. So you can see what's going to happen before it happens. Kind of like, high or foresight. One of my training aspects with one of the senior masters, I had two guys approach, and one of them would pull out a pistol and go bang. And you'd have to figure out which one had it. And I got 9 out of 10. Something about 9 out of 10 with me but it saved my life. Because how are you doing this? You watch the body movement, you watch the eye movement, if somebody gets to happen, their eyes get big. And so you just kind of, be aware of that. You don't look at a specific spot, you watch, the whole aspect. You'll see something twitch, and then you react. And
in that, let me go back to, when did you get involved in the Marine League?
In the Marine Corps League?
Marine Corps League.
There was at the Minnesota State Fair, there was a section over at the 4-H building that was set aside specifically for veterans. Now there's, I think, 10 veterans organizations up there. The DAV, the VFWs, the Legions, the Marine Corps League, Vietnam Vets, Jewish vet war vets. Possibly, I don't remember, but my wife signed me up for the Marine Corps birthday. So it happened that year in 2007, happened to be on a Sunday. So I went to check it out. It was at the local VFW. It was after church. And the guy was in a red blazer, black, white shirt, black tie. He goes, "Have you heard of the league?" I said, "No, what's that?" And as soon as he told me, "Give me the papers," and signed up. And just the fact of being near Marines again, because I work with a lot of civilians that are, they're great people, but, they'll have your experiences. Now you got people that do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I joined in Minnesota. I was the youngest of the group. Everybody else was World War II, Korea time frame, Vietnam time frame. So at least 15 to 20 plus years older than me. And that's what happens a lot with these groups. But they saw my potential, and they put me as the third in command, which is the junior vice in charge of recruiting and retaining people. I had no idea what to do or say, so I started hanging out at the recruiting station. I was just quiet, kind of quiet, taking it all back in, looking around. Oh yeah, I remember that picture. I remember that picture. Then I started asking questions about, how do you talk to people about this, and counsel, with people higher up in the league than and I got a list, what they call the members at large list, which are people that join the league but never committed to a specific detachment, so they're just kind of out there floating around. And so, out of the 25 names in there, I put 20 of them in. And they're like, how are you doing this? You get them to talk about themselves. What years were you in? And you say it with a smile, because you can see the enthusiasm. And what'd you do? Where'd you go? And all of a sudden, their memory's coming back. You see the goosebumps starting. The chest starts getting pumped up. They get, more motivation in their voice. They say, have you ever heard of the League? No, what's that? So you know what the Legions and the VFWs and the AMVETs are, right? Yeah. So those are basically all the branches of service. And they're all great organizations. I belong to a few of them myself. But the Marine Corps League is any honorably discharged Marine veteran, Fleet Marine Force Navy Corpsman, or Fleet Marine Force Navy Chaplain. And we all serve together. And so that unity, that 245 years of history is coming back now. And it
So like you're having a ball.
oh, I'm like a little kid in a toy store. And I've been blessed with a lot of creative thinking to make things happen. And opportunity will fall in your lap if you open your eyes. And you see something. You see a frayed American flag. It kind of looks kind of shabby, right? Well, here's my business card. When you decide to change the flag, please give me a call. I'll make sure that it's properly disposed of for you. Really, you do that? I just offered. And that takes care of that. We used to go visit the VA hospital, and the group I was with only had stuff from Marines, which kind of bothered me because my dad was Army, my uncles were Army, I had friends in the Navy, so and all the other we're giving stuff to just Marines. Everybody's kind of like looking, where's my stuff? And so I would hit up the recruiters and get stuff from them. Like, you would do that for us? We all signed the same paperwork, dude. We're all brothers and sisters in arms.
Yeah, we're on the last bar.
And then go from there. And those are just two of the simple things to do to, spread it out.
All right, so we're gonna run out of battery power. But
Okay.
how were you when you got home? Were you received well by your family when you got out of active duty? You received well by your family and community?
Yeah.
You didn't get into that Vietnam syndrome
No.
thing. Was it hard readjusting to civilian life?
Yeah, because everything you did, you move with a sense of urgency, and everybody was, at a snail's pace.
Yeah.
I want things done yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm nauseatingly organized for a guy.
Yeah.
But I want it done a certain way.
Yeah.
And my boss, when I got out, was a Marine, and his coworker was a Marine, so I had to, keep the ball rolling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Then, so you've already. How did the service change you then? Did it? I know you went in as a motivated. You had discipline, and you crave structure.
it amplified it.
Amplified it.
Figure about 100-fold.
Okay.
It's just how I've got to be structured. It just makes life easier. I have contingency plans for anything that comes up. Doesn't work one way, what are you going to do? Stop? No, you find another way to do it. It's that simple.
And you said you continued friendships, right?
Yeah, I've got friends that I talk to on Facebook or call them up on the phone. My best friends, lives in New Jersey. Another dear friend lives in New Jersey. Another one in Ohio. Another one in Pittsburgh. A few from California. One in D.C. Wherever you go, there's always somebody.
Did the service affect the way you related to others? Did the
That people aren't used to somebody that wants to do something, and everybody's trying to find a way around it.
So you're proactive.
Yeah,
and not everybody's that way.
I'm proactive in everything I do.
You said you've joined veterans organizations besides the Marine League.
Yeah, I joined the Legion. I'm part of the Fleet Reserve Association, and it's they're good organizations, but my heart and loyalty and everything is to the Marine Corps League.
And have you attended any reunions?
Yeah, actually, I just got back from one on Sunday. It was the spring conference. In the Marine Corps League, you have a spring conference, a state convention, and then a fall conference. The conferences are basically training, learning the ins and outs and the workings of the league, where the convention is like everybody coming out, and there's also
It's more social. It's more social.
To a point, but there's always training.
Yeah.
There's award presentations. Then they have the celebration of the chapel of 4 chaplains, which I'm a part of that.
Yeah.
I'm also a recipient of that award, and so I, assist with that. And we just had one of the ones here in February, and my guys, my color guard team, we participated in that. And the last naval battle of the Revolutionary War will be at the Vietnam Veterans thing on Saturday. So we keep busy.
Are there some life lessons you learned from your military service?
Never quit. Never be last. The only time I was last was finishing the Marine Corps Marathon. Okay. I ran the last mile in support of our sponsored runner, Mrs. Amanda Herringkind. And I've had 2 knee surgeries and 2 hip replacements, so I don't go very fast anymore. But the last mile, I ran with her, and then everybody else kind of left off.
We're almost done. What message, Vinnie, would you like to leave for future generations who view and hear this interview?
If you're a Marine, seriously consider the Marine Corps League. The camaraderie will bring you back to when you were in, and never forget where you come from. I've got two rules that I live by: treat people the way you want to be treated, and never forget where you come from. The Marine Corps League will bring back that feeling of the camaraderie, the esprit de corps, anything and everything you felt as a Marine, positive or negative, will come out shining. You got brothers and sisters that care.
And then about your story, is there anything you would like people to know and remember from your story?
If any of the people I serve would see it, give me a call. Contact information will be out there. We're on the Brevard County Detachment Marine Corps League on Facebook, and love to hear from you. We got a lot of history together and a lot of time to get caught up on.
Is there anything about 2 more questions. Is there anything you've always wanted to share about your service or veteran experience that you never have?
No, I'm pretty much an open book. I had a great time, a great tour of duty. A few people I can do without, but that's it for that.
Okay, finally, what do you wish more people knew about veterans?
That we raised our hand to keep America safe, and America knows that we are still there. There are more of us veterans than there are active duty military, and we're all still there. Our oath of enlistment has never ended, and as the model for the Marine Corps League, once a Marine, always a Marine, and I'm sure the other branches feel the same way.
And at this point, Vinnie, Joe and I would like to thank you for hosting us over at your, fantastic museum, and
thank you for the opportunity. Like I said, pretty shy normally. People are like, yeah, right. Or my running joke is, unaccustomed as I am to public speaking. And so, but when it comes to something that I'm passionate about, scouting, martial arts, and Marine Corps, because those are the three big influences in my life that shaped me to who I am, you can't shut me up. I miss all my brother and sister Marines. I love them all as family. And we'll be meeting again at the gates one day.
Thank you, Vinnie.
Thank you.